Hello and welcome back to another video. In this video I'm going to be doing two things. I'm going to be doing a little review of the Slate Digital VMR 2.0 and I'm also going to be talking about why I use the Slate Digital plugins. A lot of you have been asking me why I use these analog style plugins as well as using all of these sort of surgical and scientific analytical plugins and very sort of digital sounding plugins as well. There will be plenty of audio examples and hands-on stuff later on in this tutorial and I will just leave a timestamp to that as well. But first I'm just going to talk about why I use them and sort of my thoughts and feelings towards them. It's best to say that I'm not affiliated with Slate Digital, but I actually really wish I was because they have some really cool products that I wish I could get my hands on. But what is Slate Digital? So Slate Digital is a company that makes plugins, for anyone that doesn't know, and they make a huge variety of plugins. So they make the VMR, which is a virtual mix rack, which is a sort of 500 series drag and drop module based mixing strip. And basically it has modules to do with compression, EQ, saturation, harmonic excitement, console emulation, stuff like that. There are loads of plugins and I'll get into them later, and they're all designed really well, they all sound amazing, and they all look absolutely stunning as well. So you can get the VMR for $14.99 a month or £10, I'm British, and for that monthly price you get access to all of their products. So you don't just get this VMR, which is what I use most of the time, you also get their critically acclaimed virtual tape machine. You get their repeater delay, which is an absolutely fantastic delay plugin. I'm using it on everything. You get their VERBSUITE, which is a sort of modeling reverb. It's modeled after loads of the famous reverbs, and there's just so many reverbs in there to choose. You get the VBC, which is the virtual bus compressors. I use this on the master bus of everything to sort of glue everything together and give it this amazing width and dimension. They also have a fantastic guitar amplifier simulation called S-Gear, and they have one of the best de-essers on the market called EOSIS E2. And then to top it all off, you also get the FGX mastering processor, which is fantastic if you want to just absolutely slam your masters super loud. I'm not a big fan of doing that, but if you want super loud masters, it's definitely a fantastic plugin to use. So you get all of this for £10 a month, and that pretty much answers why I use it. I use it because, as you'll know, I do not support pirating plugins. I only buy what I can afford and what I've saved up to buy. I do this for a living, so I make money from mixing people's music, mastering, and also, making tutorials and video content and stuff like that. And because I do this as a job, it's fair to support other people's jobs as well. So for £10 a month, I really can't complain. I've got my hands on pretty much everything I need. But as well as that, I actually really like the Slate Digital sort of ethos of giving these fantastic tools to people who are just starting out and who are on a pretty low budget. Because even when I started, most of the VSTs that I really wanted from other companies, and I'm not going to name and shame, they're expensive because, a lot of time goes into them, a lot of money goes into developing them. But when a plugin costs £100, £150, £200 for one plugin, that's just sort of out of reach for me at the minute. The thought of, getting my hands on 3 or 4 plugins and knowing that that might cost me £400, £600, £700 is just mind-boggling. So the fact that I can get all of these plugins for £10 a month, that is one of the main reasons why I'm using them. They are super affordable. But as well as being affordable, they're designed incredibly well. And you'll know that myself and Brad are sort of really keen on design. This whole studio is designed exactly the way I want it to be. The sort of wood effect on the acoustic panels that we made, the plants, although they're dying a little bit. Everything in here is designed to be creative, enjoyable, and just a nice happy environment to work in. And using these plugins certainly makes the whole process feel really musical, really creative, and really free. I've been making a few videos about health recently, about protecting your eyes and your ears, and this is sort of the theme I'm going down on this video. It's just making sure that you're enjoying it. Obviously it's a job and you don't have to be grinning from ear to ear all the time, but you want to make sure that you're enjoying it. So I found a set of plugins that works for me, that I like looking at, that I like using, that I think I can get good results from. And I'm under no illusion of thinking that I need more plugins to improve. I know that 99% of the improvement for me personally has to come from within, just from putting time, effort, and sort of determination into it. And it's not going to come from just getting my hands on the next newest and sort of shiniest plugin. Anyway, I'm not going to ramble on for too long. Let's get into some audio examples, and I'll also show how the VMR works for anyone who has never used it and is completely new to it, just to see whether it's the sort of thing you might be interested in. So I'm using our song Nothing to Lose to demo these plugins, and I'm just going to start with the drum bus. So on here I have a VMR, a virtual mix rack, in the effects slot. This is what it will look like when it loads up, and it's got all of these modules in it. So basically, this is how the 500 series is set up. You have different effects. This is an EQ, for instance, and you sort of arrange them the way you want. So the signal will come into this one, and it's going to flow through here, be affected by this one, go to the right, be affected by this one, and keep going along until it's done. And then it will go back into your regular effects chain. So you can see that it's a really compact solution. You don't have to fill up your effects chain with stuff. You just fill up this instead. And if I just clear all of these, I'm going to show you some of the stuff that's going on here. You might be wondering what sort of effects you have available to you. So you have all of these in here. And what are these? So if you click here, this is new for version 2.0. It gives you this list. So you've got dynamics, equalizers, harmonics, mastering, preamps. So depending on the categorization, you can pick the plugins you need. So this one is an 1176 compressor, and it doesn't explicitly say that that's what it is, but they all have sort of cheeky names. Like this is the 11.6 compressor, so they've just dropped the 7. So it's based after the absolutely world-renowned famous 1176 URI compressor. You also have licensed emulations of the Distressor from Empirical Labs, very, very popular compressor. I use it on just about everything, and a whole host of other compressors. Then you have equalizers, so you've got, you know, British style EQs, SSL style EQs. They all have their own different colors, they all have their own flavors, and you're probably noticing already that all of these things just look absolutely gorgeous. They look really hands-on, really, really cool to use almost, and there's no graphical displays. So this isn't necessarily what you use for that sort of surgical parametric EQ, but when you're trying to shape a sound, really brighten it up, get some thump out of it, you're just using your ears. So you're selecting a frequency, and then you're sort of boosting or attenuating that frequency until it sounds right to you. You're not relying on a graphical display, so it's all about the audio quality, and it's all about what it sounds like and not what it looks like. Just to clarify, you can just drag and drop any of these on. If you want to duplicate one, you can just hold Alt and just duplicate the setting across. And then if you don't want to use it, you can just press the X here, or you can mute it up at the top to see what the effects sounds like without that EQ. And then to delete it, you can just drag it and drop it away to the side. There's so many more plugins that I could go over in just one video. There's filters, there's harmonic exciters, all sorts of stuff. You've got tube saturators here. There's pretty much absolutely everything you need besides reverb and delay, because the reverb and delay is handled by their VERBSUITE plugin and their repeater plugin, which is also included in the price, and I use those for just about everything. One of the things that's new for the VMR 2.0 is that these side strips used to have a wooden effect, and now they're metal, so it's got this kind of darker, more modern look. It kind of matches the Distressor a little bit, and I really, really like that. I like the wood, I like this too. And they have this thing up the top called Dream Strips. So when it opens up, it will open up a classic strip, and this has a virtual channel to sort of emulate a channel strip on a console. You've got two real like workhorse mixing EQs. You've got the Distressor, compressor, you've got a harmonic exciter, and then a trimmer for your gain staging. So that's what you'll need, you know, like 70 or 80% of the time when mixing. So they've got it loaded up almost as a preset, and then you've got all these other strips to choose from, vibe strip, mix bus strip, and they're all just loaded with different sort of optimized plugins depending on what you want. And I'm not a fan for presets, but this isn't really a preset. This is just like a starting point. No dials have been turned. It's just that they've loaded the modules for you. If you do want to use presets, there's loads and loads of presets for absolutely everything you could think of, and in my opinion, loads of these are really, really good. I haven't used all of them yet, but the ones I've used on guitars, the ones I've used on vocals, it's just such a good starting point. So let's dive straight into an example. So I'm on here, and I'm on drums, so let's just go drums, and I'm on the drum bus, so let's pick one that will work. Tight and punchy, let's pick that one for now. Let's see what it's going to do to this. So I'll start with it turned off, and you'll get to hear the drums. So let's activate it now. So all I need to do is add the trimmer before and afterwards just to try and control the gain going in. I didn't have enough gain going into my compressor there. Yeah, now we're hearing it. Really sort of pulls it all up. If I unmute everything and you can hear the whole song together, I'm going to start with the effect on, then I'm going to turn it off, okay? Oh, no, ain't my friend. Oh, you know we're on our way to nothing. So make it something while it lasts. That's really slamming the snare drum, and you know, this is just a place that you could start, but maybe it was a little bit too bright. In my opinion, the snare drum was too bright, so all you've got to do is just ease off on those high frequencies. Now I'm going to just jump to a different source, so I'm going to take my sort of basses down here, and I'm going to apply a preset to the sub. So I've got it here, and it was 60 Hertz sub A. So I'm just going to start without the effect, and then I'm going to turn the effect on, and we're just looking for the we're just listening for the sub. It's just really just added a huge amount of bottom end, and there's a little bit of saturation going on. An example of what the delay and the reverb can do. So the reverbs on the vocals I have isolated just here. So I'm just going to play the main vocal along dry, and then I'm going to add those reverbs in. It's a plate reverb and a very, very small hall reverb. So we should be on our way, my friend. Oh, you know we're on our way to nothing. So make it something while it lasts. I don't know what's hiding, but I'm tired of living in the past. And let's take a listen to those delays as well. So there's two here. One's like this. Very, very quick. And there's another one here. Just a glimpse of how it ends. Embrace the space that's in. Really, really sort of artistic sounding delays from that repeater delay there. So now I've just moved on to the strings section, and I'm just going to show you just how easy it is to sort of tweak these and get the sort of sound you might be looking for. So I'm just going to start with some EQ. So I'm going to pull in this custom series EQ, and I'm going to listen to the strings and sort of just EQ around until I get a sort of sound that I'm looking for. So you might see how the workflow is different to what you might be used to. In this case, I'm not seeing a curve showing that I'm cutting and boosting stuff. I'm just listening, and then I'm turning it on and off and seeing whether I like the result. And in that way, it's very fair, because turning it on and off, especially if I keep my eyes closed sometimes and I just sort of press the button a few times so that I can't tell, and then I just listen. And if I like one version, I then open my eyes. And if the effect is on, fantastic, it's done something great. If the effect's off, then I go bin it and try something different. Now I'm going to try a different EQ. So this is the British EQ, and this one's going to sound a little bit different. So I'm just going to boost the top end here, okay? Has like a completely different profile to the other one. So I'm just going to jump over to the atmosphere on this track and see if I can do anything special here. So it sounds a little bit like this. Let's see what we can do with an EQ. really airy. Let's try a little bit of saturation and see whether we can make this source just a little bit more like crunchy. I like that. You can just hear it sort of crispy just on the edges of the headphones slightly. It's really, really nice. And again, I'm really enjoying the process of using this, and if it's not sounding better when they're added in, I'll just get rid of them. You know that I'm not a big fan for tweaking all of these effects in solo. I'm just sort of doing this just to show how it works for the sake of this tutorial. I think when they started they had 4 or 5 modules, but now there's so many of them, and I'm really glad that they've added this tab in the side to choose between them. So really the biggest differences between the old version and the new version, like I said, these metal panel sides, you've got this option to choose lists. You've also got these buttons up here where you can choose just the pre's, just the harmonic stuff, just the mastering, or just the dynamics. And then you've got these dream strips. What's also good about the strips is that if you make your own preset, for instance, rock bass 1, and then I add a few things to it, let's just say I was adding all of this stuff in. Wow, that's a lot of compressors. But if I like this, I can press this button to add it to the dream strip, and that way I know that that preset is something that I'm always going to use. So if I have a preset that I always use for vocal tracking, say I always use the same preamp, the same compressor and the same EQ, I can just set that up. I can set it here as a dream strip, just press it, and it's all loaded up for me to then tweak and change all the settings and ratios. And another reason why I like using these plugins is because they are so low on the CPU. When I would do this with either stock plugins or any other plugins that I have, if I was loading multiple EQs, multiple compressors on, my CPU would just be struggling so much and my computer would pretty much grind to a halt. But with all of these ones, I'm just loading plugins willy-nilly, being really, really free about it, having as many as I want. And more isn't always better, but just as many as I want in any configurations that I want until I get the sound that I like. You might also notice that if I press this classic strip button and if I keep letting it reload, all of the faces on the plugins keep changing. And it's that kind of painstaking detail, making them all look unique and special, that just makes it even more enjoyable to use. And the fact that you can run an SSL EQ into a Neve EQ into a distressor, it's crazy just the different options you have available to you. And I think anyone 30 or 40 years ago would be absolutely astonished by the capabilities of computers and programming and coding these days. And I'm just really, really thankful to the whole team over at Slate for putting together plugins like this that help me work a lot better and really enjoy the job that I do. I know a lot of people out there are only sold on the very sort of surgical and sort of analytical mixing tools, and that's completely fine. I don't think I'm going to be dropping my parametric EQ anytime soon. I still use that for, carving out frequencies and doing all sorts of stuff. I still use digital compressors for sound design, but when it comes to just the enjoyment of mixing and using my ears, I just absolutely love these plugins, and I hope this is sort of explains why I use these plugins and why I love them so much. If you're using the Slate plugins, everyone knows that it's just £10 a month and there's no sort of diamond, platinum, bronze, gold levels. It's just everyone gets everything. And I really like that business model they have where every customer gets every plugin. You just pay the same amount each month and you get absolutely everything. You might not use all of it, but for $14 a month, it doesn't really matter if you don't use the guitar amp because you've got so much other stuff to choose from. If you watch the videos on this channel, you'll see that I'm often talking about health and enjoying the whole process of making music. And although in the videos I'm often quite serious and I'm showing some sort of like very surgical techniques and whatnot, scientific, analytical stuff, most of the time, like 90% of the time, I'm enjoying myself and I'm just doing this creatively and having fun with it. And that's one of these things that these plugins let me do. If other people enjoy different styles of plugins, then those are probably the ones you should go for. It's this loop where I like using these plugins, so I use them. And then when I use them, I enjoy using them, so I want to use them more, and I want to keep working on my music and growing my own skills, because working on my own skills is actually what's going to make me improve, not just buying another plugin. So if you've got plugins and equipment around you that inspires you to keep creating, that's the stuff that you want to use. It's not going to be for everybody. Some people will hate these analog style plugins and they only want to see digital displays. That's completely fine. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just whatever works best for you. So hopefully this video has been helpful to someone. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.